This is KGW News at Sunrise.
Good morning. Thanks for getting up with us on this Saturday morning. I'm Deidre Johnson. This morning on Sunrise, losing ground on education. What a new study reveals about where Oregon ranks on its test scores. Plus, connecting the dots through DNA. What investigators finally know about a teen found dead more than 50 years ago. But before those headlines, let's check in with Daisy Caballero for our first look at the Saturday forecast. Daisy?
Hey, good morning, Deidre, and good morning to all of our viewers. Happy Saturday to you. I hope you enjoyed all of the sunshine yesterday and the spring-like temperatures. We reached 63 yesterday, just a few degrees shy of breaking a previous record. We, of course, are not dealing with that right now. We're in the upper 30s here in the Rose City. Of course, we will start to warm up as we look a little bit later into the day. But current temperatures right now, many of us are in the mid to upper 30s, 37 out in Troutdale, 36 in Boring. We are seeing 41 out in West Lynn and also seeing those 30s and 40s off of the coastline. So forecasted temperatures for today, this is a look right about noon. We should be reaching those low 50s for much of us along the I-5 corridor, mid to upper 50s in some areas off of the eastern portion of our state, including Pendleton here. And as we roll the clock, of course, we will be warming up briefly and then cooling right back down back into those low 50s by right about 5 o'clock. So this is what your weekend's going to be looking like. We will be waking up to some sunshine, then transitioning into more of that cloudy sky setup. We're expecting to hit 55 degrees, 51 for Sunday with rain developing, but we have a lot more to talk about coming up in my full forecast.
All right, thanks so much, Daisy. Well, we're learning about a standoff in a neighborhood in Northwest Portland Friday afternoon. Our cameras were rolling as police took the suspect into custody. Alma McCarty has the latest details.
After 4 to 5 hours of crisis negotiations and several tactics by Portland police.
Some special explosive devices to take off the front door, and then we filled the apartment with CS gas, and that flushed the individual out.
Officers arrested 41-year-old Jerome Strickland, charging him with burglary, attempted assault, and unlawful use of a weapon. Those charges stemming from a disturbance Friday morning, just blocks away on Northwest 28th Place.
An adult male tried entering a residence and stabbing someone inside. Someone inside that residence grabbed a gun and shot at the suspect, who was not hit and fled the area.
He bolted into my apartment complex right behind my apartment, and I watched him and made eye contact with him and saw what looked like a 2-foot blade hidden up the backside of his arm.
Audra Prothro told us after this interaction, she flagged down first responders.
I was like, I'm so sorry, sir. I need you to call the police right now. I think he might have just broken into my neighbor's apartment. I am beyond afraid.
Within minutes, police swarmed the scene and by 3:45 eventually persuaded the suspect to leave the apartment.
We do know that incidents like this can impact a neighborhood. We know our response out here was an inconvenience to everyone who lives here, and we are extremely grateful for the cooperation.
Portland police say no one was injured. Investigators say the people living in the first home knew the suspect. Strickland remains behind bars. Well, the body of a teenager that was discovered 54 years ago has been identified with the help of new DNA testing. She's been identified as Sandra Young, a Grant High School student who went missing in the late 1960s. According to the Oregonian, her body was found in a shallow grave on Sauvie Island in February 1970.
We were really happy and honored to be a part of this resolution, as bittersweet as it is, because finally we have a first and last name for this teenage girl, and finally we're able to give her back to her family.
Investigators believe Young could be the victim of a violent crime. They say her skull was fractured and it's likely she was murdered. In Vancouver, more than 50 firefighters and first responders were called out to a high-rise fire. It started around 10:30 Friday morning at the Smith Tower Apartments on Washington Street. When firefighters got inside, they found a hallway filled with smoke and a fire in one of the units. It was quickly extinguished. The person who lives in the unit wasn't hurt. There's no word yet on the cause. Fire crews in Seattle had to climb 90 flights of stairs to put out a fire at the Space Needle on Friday. The fire broke out around 4 a.m. in the elevator control room. It started when crews were doing construction in that room. The elevator service was back up and running by the afternoon, and things should be back to normal for visitors this weekend. The superintendent of the Tigard-Tualatin School District is stepping down at the end of the school year. Dr. Sue Ricky Smith made the announcement on Friday, saying it's time to retire after her 25 years in education. It's been a tough school district, of course, as far as a tough school year at the district, including multiple threats made against Hazelbrook Middle School. Those threats happened after a student-on-student attack got shared on social media. Since then, some parents have called for her to step down. New research shows most students are bouncing back from learning loss during the pandemic. However, kids in Oregon are moving in the wrong direction. It's the only state where kids continued to lose ground. Thomas Schultz looks at the numbers.
It was really hard to read.
New numbers are in for students' continued education recovery. And nationally, kids narrowed math and reading learning loss from 2022 to 2023. Though in Oregon, elementary and middle schoolers are now even further behind. Now 3/4 of a year behind in math and 2/3 of a year in reading.
One challenge that many districts are facing is high absenteeism.
Thomas Kane, a researcher and Harvard professor of education, says another roadblock is that school districts spent federal funding in different ways.
We handed out, $190 billion to school districts around the country and said, here, you figure it out.
Some districts spent funds to retain staff, others for tutoring to replace in-person class time. And research now shows programs like tutoring help students bounce back.
I think it definitely should be used to target learning losses, like figuring out what a kid needs and then directing resources to that.
Micah Yai is an associate professor of education at Lewis and Clark. She agrees absenteeism and missed in-person learning played huge factors, though there's other reasons for the backslide too. One, technology, which Yai says is a useful tool that may be overused statewide. Another, staff shortages.
There is a national teaching shortage, but in Oregon specifically, there's a substitute teaching shortage, so the whole system is stressed.
And in a statement, the Oregon Department of Education says they aren't satisfied with the results, though $100 million of new state funds is going to reading development like tutoring and summer school. And in this legislative session, ODE wants another $50 million invested in summer learning. And experts say with the new data, they now know what programs work and can target money efficiently as federal funds expire this fall. Though if more isn't done,
students in many school districts in Oregon will be behind when the federal money runs out.
Kane says schools should tell families now if students are behind so they can make plans to catch up this summer. 4,600 workers at Oregon's 7 public universities are one step closer to a strike. The union that represents them has declared an impasse. This includes staff like janitors and cooks. The universities and the union have until March 1st to submit final contract proposals. The earliest a walkout could come is sometime in April. The universities released a statement on Friday expressing hope a strike won't happen, but they're making plans just in case it does.